Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about growing Chinese eggplant. I grew these indoors in my hydroponic gardens and they were super fun to grow. If you have never liked eggplant, definitely give these Asian eggplant varieties a try. They are so different and taste so much better than the eggplant that I grew up eating, and I really recommend them. Chinese eggplants and just most Asian eggplants in general look very different to the American Black Beauty variety that I grew up seeing at the grocery store. They're long, skinny, they have very thin flesh with not too many seeds inside, so they're actually quite tasty. They don't have any of the bitterness and the mushy sogginess that American eggplants have. Actually, before I started growing and eating these, I never liked eggplant. I just thought I would grow them for the fun of it. And now I love eggplant and I actually eat it all the time. So definitely give Asian eggplants a try. Eggplants actually originated in India centuries ago and they looked quite different. They were little round white globe shapes, so explorers who visited thought they looked like eggs. And they kind of migrated to China and the rest of Asia through trade routes, and specifically in China, agriculturalists started to domesticate them. They really experimented with improving on the taste and the flavor, and along the way the look of them changed as well. So they went from these small round circular shapes to long skinny Asian eggplant shaped. Basically, if you've never had Asian eggplants, I highly recommend. You can get them at the Asian grocery store. They have a couple of different varieties usually. They'll have like ping tong, which is a Taiwanese variety. They might have Chinese string. They'll have like a Japanese variety, but yeah, lots of different options. They all kind of taste a little bit similar. Or you can try growing them yourself. So I grew these indoors in my hydroponic gardens and they were very straightforward. So let's get right into the grow guide aspect. So I planted these in early May and I like to batch plant different varieties of the same vegetable at the same time, just to get a kind of compare and contrast how different cultivars grow. So I planted the Chinese eggplants alongside some Thai eggplants, and I'll have a separate video on growing Thai eggplants, which you can check up here. Both of them I started at the same time in early May, and it was pretty straightforward. I direct sowed them in the aerogarden using the Grow Anything kit, which is basically just empty pods and sponges, and then that way you can use your own seeds. I found the seeds from a heirloom seed company. You can get Asian seeds at some grocery stores. There's a lot of different seed catalogs that will have them. I'll link some of my favorites in the description box. And I recently discovered Kitazawa, which is pretty much exclusively Asian varieties of all different kinds of vegetables, like really authentic Asian vegetable seeds. So I like them as well. And yeah, they sprouted quite easily. I did have some issues with bugs. I had my first aphid infestation, which was horrible. I have a whole separate video on getting rid of aphids if you want to check that out. Knock on wood that doesn't happen to you, because getting bugs indoors is absolutely disgusting. I basically took them out, and then once the bug problem was gone, I put them back in. At that point, one Chinese eggplant was much farther along than the rest of them. So my kind of solution for that is to put it in a separate little container, make sure it has enough water, and then let the other plants grow in the unit. And because hydroponic gardens will grow much faster, they'll quickly catch up to the one faster growing plant in anywhere from a couple days to like 2 weeks, and then you can put that larger plant back in and then they can all grow again at the same rate. The only thing is you have to stay on top of the watering. I accidentally I forgot to fill the water and it dried out. It was really hot, like dead of summer at that point, so plants drink up a lot more water in the heat. But it's okay, like you just give it water and it'll revive itself. So it's pretty straightforward to do, and I've done that method a lot and it often pretty much always works. The eggplants grew very tall very quickly, so I would definitely recommend a unit like the farm. You really want at least 2 feet, ideally 3 feet of growing height. They easily reached 3 feet within 3 months. And in general, Asian eggplant varieties tend to grow a little bit faster than like Italian or American eggplants, so you'll be able to harvest in about 60 days. I think there are dwarf eggplant varieties though that you can get from AeroGarden. They have like a pre-seeded option, so maybe you could try that in the Bounty. But otherwise, if you're just growing traditional eggplants, non-dwarf varieties, then you definitely want to use the farm. And then the one tricky thing about growing eggplants indoors is pollination. They are a little bit finicky and they do require a bit of hand holding. So I had one Chinese eggplant produce little baby eggplants all on its own. That one did great, but the rest of them needed some help. So they produce these really pretty pale pink flowers. It starts off as a closed bud, and then a couple days later the bud will open and you'll see the flowers and the yellow little pustules inside. And then once the flower is open and soft, that's when you want to go in and manually pollinate. You can use your finger, these are quite large flowers, and just gently rub the pollen around. Or what I really recommend is using a tool, like a little vibrating brush. AeroGarden sells one called Be the Bee, which I find that because eggplants need like heavy duty pollination, you really want to make sure to go in there, and the vibrating tool helps a little bit better than your finger. I'm pretty sure the reason why eggplant pollination is difficult is because the window of pollination is quite short. So unlike tomato plants or pepper plants where you can just go in every couple days and shake the plant, or you can go in and manually pollinate as well, it's the length of time, like the optimal time for pollination for an eggplant is much shorter. So I watched it really carefully the second harvest, and basically it'll take a couple days for the flower to open, and once it's in that like peak open stage where it's soft and the yellow things inside move, that's when you want to go harvest. And usually that sweet spot only lasts for like a day, and then the yellow pieces will harden, and when they're hard and you go in and pollinate, it doesn't seem to stick. So you want to go in every day and make sure that you're manually pollinating and getting that fruit to actually grow. And you'll know that pollination is successful when the flower drops and when the outer rim of the flower has this really spiky, hard, rigid look to it. That spikiness becomes the base of the eggplant, and the fruit will start to peek through, and the stem itself will also get thick and kind of rigid, and that's how you know that fruit is coming. You might have to wait a couple more days to actually see the fruit start to grow. Chinese eggplants are long and skinny, so they start out like white, and then they gradually get longer and bigger, mostly growing longer and slightly fatter. In general though, they didn't seem to get all that big, maybe about 8 inches, 10 inches max. Some of them were quite small and puny, like 4 to 6 inches. So I found that the more eggplants that you let grow on one plant, the smaller each fruit will be. So if you really want one large, long, juicy eggplant, then maybe only let 1 or 2 eggplants grow per plant. If you want as many eggplants as possible, then you can let 5 or 6 grow. Each one will just be maybe a little bit smaller. In general though, I find that with Asian eggplants, the smaller it is, the less mature, the sweeter and the more tender. So in general, when you're buying eggplant or when you're harvesting, you do want to harvest it on the earlier end. You don't want to wait and let it get overly mature, because once it starts to lose that glossiness to the skin, it's actually producing seeds inside, and the seeds are what make eggplant taste bitter. So harvest it right when you see it's at peak maturity. Don't let it wait too long, and you'll enjoy the taste a lot better. So the nice thing about eggplant is it will continue to produce eggplant. It's not like a one harvest plant. So I harvested everything that was mature. Actually, some of them got overripe and over mature, and then I let a new round go. And what was interesting was the first round was a really pale lavender, almost white color eggplant, which I was surprised by because the seed packet has really dark purple eggplants. I was kind of confused by like why they were so white. I kept waiting for them to turn colors, but they didn't. And then the second harvest, they ended up being a lot more purple. So I'm not really sure why that is. Don't know if it has to do with like the temperature or the nutrition. I pretty much kept the nutrition the same. The only thing I changed was maybe the temperature. The second round was in fall, the first round was in peak summer. So I'm not really sure why that happened. If you have any ideas, let me know. Asian eggplants have very thin skins, so you don't actually need to soak these before cooking. They're super easy to eat. I mainly cook them in 2 ways. I like to make like a Chinese dish called eggplants in garlic sauce. It's like a stir fry. It's super simple. Always has a lot of like salty, sweet umami-ness to it. And then I also have been tempura frying them in a very light, like Japanese tempura batter. And those are kind of my main 2 eggplant recipes. If you have other eggplant recipe suggestions, let me know. Overall, I would say growing eggplants was a little bit difficult, but super rewarding. I am just really happy with how the eggplants came out, and I think they're tasty, they're nutritious, they're fun to grow, they're different, they're not something you can easily get at your regular everyday grocery store. Definitely can't find them at Whole Foods, so yeah, if you want to grow something a little bit different, give these Chinese eggplants a try. If you also have other eggplant varieties that you like, that you think taste good, let me know, and I'll see you in my next video.